And what is going on, beautiful people? And welcome to the only place in the universe that supplies you fuel for your dreams, goals, and entrepreneur ambitions for the free reality TV. And I have an amazing guest, Lorena.
Hi, guys.
She's here today for us to go over and review this amazing book, The Queen's Code. She is the woman who actually introduced the book to me. So Lorena, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm an absolute raving fan of the book. And I don't think you even expected me to even pick up the book since we talked about it in passing. So
yeah, it's a book more geared towards women, so I totally applaud you for reading it and actually seeing the perspective of where women are coming. I think more men should read the book.
I agree.
But all women should read the book.
Yes, definitely. So guys, before we get into the book, all right, stay tuned. You got to watch the video because we're going to have some giveaways, all right? So you need to pay attention to see how you can get the giveaway, all right? So let's, without further ado, if you wouldn't mind, just giving us a synopsis of what actually the book is about, and then we'll kind of go into, our experiences with it and all that good stuff.
Okay, without giving away too much, right? The book, so like our favorite all-time book, I know it's glaring from my window, but it's a nonfiction book. I mean, well, it's a fiction book on a nonfiction material, right? So the content is stuff that we can use every day, but the way the book is written is the story of a grandmother and her now millennial, or I would probably consider her a millennial, right?
Yeah, for the most part,
For the most part, or maybe a young, an elder millennial, whatever you call them. It could be like my age.
All these terms.
A generation. I don't even know. The younger one. Maybe she's in her late 20s. But about her, this grandchild who is now in the real world trying to make it financially freedom and be that powerful woman that we are all told we need to be, but her struggles with relationships. And relationship is not just necessarily a love relationship. It's just the relationship between her and men, all kinds of men, partners, business, clients, whatever. And she ran to her grandma because her grandmother has like this marriage that has lasted, all time. I don't know. I think they were like 50 years or something married. And they still have this adoring love for one another. And she was just wondering, how did this happen? And her grandmother told her that there was a Queen's Code, which is how the name of the book came around, that has been passed down from generation to generation in their family, on how women and men should interact and how we should treat one another. And so her grandmother started telling her these stories and giving her examples. And as she started taking and consuming the information that we'll get into, she started seeing the difference in the relationships of the men around her and how they were treating her, how she was treating them, and how the change produced positive impact in her entire life. Not just in work or anything, but overall in general. What could have been, I don't know, maybe a month worth of information from her grandmother took a huge course and changed her life trajectory for the better, probably for the best, for the rest of her life. Would you agree?
Sure. I would agree for sure. And like you said, you did a great job without giving everything away. But I thought we would, before we continue to go into the content, kind of share why we both, decided to pick up the book. I would say me, for instance, just being, it was twofold, right? So one, coming out of a relationship and wanting to kind of understand kind of how the other party thinks. Because as you'll see in the book, men think in a particular way. So and it means to think, like, why is she thinking like that? Why would she even come to that point? That's one of the reasons why I picked up the book. And two, hopefully this doesn't sound bad, and you guys need to understand where we're coming from a point of our own perspectives, right? But in a way to help the next one who comes along to communicate with me a proper way without me telling them. I feel like this is an amazing tool to be like, hey, honey, I suggest you take a look at this book and allow them to absorb it. And that's the main two reasons that I decided to read it, is once again to create a nice tool to give to the significant other to help improve a relationship, and secondly to understand how and why you guys think.
I think that's beautiful. I've told some of my friends, I'm like, just slide it in the nightstand. Yep. Like, oh, look, a book. Like, you should read it. You know, be open to if there was a book out there, the equivalent of this for men, I would. Yep. Man, it would be great. Diante, you should write it. I've told you that before.
Man, give me 10 years or so and maybe.
Whatever. We need it out there. For me, I picked up the book. So about, I would say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I got into this kick that I wanted to read 52 books a week, a year. So that's one book a week. So in order to be able to accomplish that, you need a good variation of books, right? And I'm not generally a nonfiction book reader. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not a fiction book reader. I'm actually a nonfiction book reader. I like to read stuff that are motivating or help my mind think. This was one of, I want to tell you how I got it and I don't remember, but I'm sure it was in the search. Yeah. It came that week I read, or that month I read some of Tony Robbinson's top picks. Word. So I might have come through in my research of that. How Do Men Thinketh was one of the books that I read, but it's a completely different topic. But and I think in researching that, this might have popped up. And of course, when I read what it was about, I'm like, why not? Because it's about self-growth, right? Yes. How can I become better? Why am I reading 52 books? For what? Just to say I did it? Right. No, because I'm trying to get something from each book that I read. Right. And this was a great book for relationships, so I took it on. Right. So as I mentioned to you before, this is a book I read at least once a week.
Once a year. Hey, but if you want to read it once a week, go ahead.
I don't need that much reminder. Once a year, because when we'll get to it, the viewers will understand it, but we could easily fall back to old habits, you know, and sometimes we need a reminder of what we're doing and how we should be acting. Right. So this is definitely a go-to book. When you get the book, this is a book you keep. This is not a book you put away, right? Yes. And go back to it and refresh your recollection of it, your memory, the feeling that you got when you read the book. Because I can tell you that there's chapters in there that I was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, I do that. Yeah. I didn't realize the impact of that stuff. Yeah. So that's why I read it, I kept it, and I keep reading it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important. I have a top 5 Diante book list that had not been cracked until this book came along. And I do the similar thing. All those books in my top 5, I make sure I read once a year. This will now be one of those. And once again, just a refresher, and we'll be in different points in our lives each year. So some concept that didn't hit you back then hits you the next year, like, dang, I didn't even think about that. So absolutely, I commend you for reading this thing once a year. So let's talk about kind of some of the things you enjoyed and that stuck out to you in the book. Okay. So there's several things that stuck out to me, but off the top of my head, if I was having this conversation with a friend who I'm recommending the book to, the top things that I would say that stuck out to me would be the demasculation of men and how often women do it and how we don't credit what we're doing, the effect on a man's, I don't want to say ego because it's not really what it is, but it's, their
psyche, their person. Yeah,
exactly. Like, growing up, I was always told that my biggest weapon was my tongue. Right. Yeah, like my tongue. Yes. Like I have a tongue that's made, steel, and I can just cut right through it with my words. And I didn't realize the impact on that with let's just say Gil, because that's my husband, but whatever partner, you had, some of the things that you say are scars. I mean, the wound will heal, but the scar will stay there. Yeah. So, and a lot of us, and I know there's some relationships that, that last forever. Yeah. But statistically, I'm a family law person. So statistically, a lot of us are going to be on second marriages, potentially third marriages,
Right.
and we never really understand what went wrong in the first
Yeah.
round, right? So
Yeah.
when I saw these things and I read these books, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe
Yeah.
I could have rolled my eyes a little less,
Yep.
or not reminded them what happened in 1984 when
Yep.
they forgot to drop off the
Yep.
flowers.
Yep.
So demasculating was something that was huge on me. And we'll talk about that. And then the equivalence of demasculation to men doing the same thing with women
Yeah.
by sexualizing them.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that totally
Yeah.
blew my mind. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I never thought about it. I just thought men were like, cat whistle you down the street.
Word. Word.
Yeah, but they're cat
Yep.
whistling you because you didn't
Give
connect.
them the
So
yep.
give them
And they're
the
trying to
attention
bring
they
you
wanted.
down a peg.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, and I'll go into it. And they also use a very poignant term to get it across. They don't always call it masculine. They say castrating. So you can like
castrating.
feel like anytime
Yes.
you say castrating. So
Yeah.
there's a point in here, Lorena. And I know you guys are going to buy this book. So when you re-look at this video, you're going to go to page 80, viewers. And it's a great passage in there in regards to what Lorena is talking about. And it says, after being castrated again in a relationship or society or anywhere in between, a man will eventually come to relate to women, a particular woman or all women, from fear, and get this, instead of love. You're saying, and then once again, this is Kimberly is the woman that's talking to her grandmother. And then she goes on to say, you're saying that by nature, men regard women with love and trust, seeking intimacy, and are willing to cherish them. And we get the opposite because we castrate them. And just something, that sentence, those passages was pretty powerful to me, especially when they said, instead of love. Men operate from fear when they're castrated, and no one operating from fear rarely gets you a positive result at all, you know. So, but who would have thought by doing some, just like Lorena stated, little things like rolling your eyes and being sarcastic to someone, it chops them down a peg, right? Even men, when they're going into catcalling and things like that, that's a form of chopping a woman down a peg. Right, that's not operating off of love, right? So you're beginning to say,
yeah. Well, just giving an example, when you have two parents, right?
Yeah.
And you have a parent who's very, nurturing and giving, and the child just goes to them, versus a parent who maybe is stronger, screams and punishes. Well, the child's going to respect you, but they're going to respect you out of fear. So rather than going to you out of love. So you don't want that type of relationship in your home, because that's just going to open the door for it to end.
Right.
So I can give some examples that I wrote down with regards to what castration
would be,
or demasculation of men. And so some of them would be complaining about how they don't do things the way you want them done. Right? You don't let them help you. That's a huge thing in our society today. Listen, I'm strong, powerful, right? I am independent, and I want to raise my daughters to feel the same way. And that's okay when you're out there on the streets. But you have to really remember, when you're home in your relationship, that it's okay to get help. We all need it. So saying, I don't need you, I got this, I don't whatever, then it totally demasculates men, because they want to be needed. And then taking that power away from them, telling them, I got this, so what good are you? Right? And that's what we're saying. That you said it, criticizing them. We often do that, ignoring them. And I think this is pretty much this one. I think is a huge one in marriages and long-term relationships, is when you withhold sex.
They talk about that as well.
Withholding sex from them, because that's our power, right? So like, well, you ain't gonna get none because you didn't take out the garbage, so you're done. I guess we'll talk in a week. And that's not gonna teach you to take out the garbage.
Exactly. You're just gonna be mad and like whatever.
You're be mad, So let's see here. What else? Interrupting them and I get it. Like you guys are in a heated argument, you interrupt each other, or but if it's a conversation that you're having, when you interrupt them, what you're telling them is, what you're saying is just not important to me. Right? So that's a way of demasculating them as well. And then here's the biggest thing. It's when we expect them to be women.
I love
Right?
that. Yeah, I love when she said
It's
that.
like,
Yep.
they're like, wait, you're saying that men are not hairy women, right?
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
That's what she says in the
Yep.
book. Men are men and women are women, but
Yes.
we expect them to feel and act the way we would in certain
Yep.
situations,
Yep.
and forgetting that they're completely different beings,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
It's like, what do you mean you didn't cry in that Publix commercial, you insensitive fool? Like, you know,
Yep.
like, how did you not when she was baking with the kid? It's so cute, you know?
Exactly.
And now we think you're heartless. So,
Yep.
because
Yep.
we expect for you to act like us.
Yep.
So when we do all these things, and there's a list. I mean, when the viewers read this book, they're gonna see all the stuff that
Yeah.
happens. But that also goes hand in hand with work. You know,
Yeah.
if you're a boss, or
Yeah.
your boss is a male,
Yeah.
and you have people either underneath you or above you who are male,
Right.
you know, taking work from them or taking directions from them on how you take them.
Right.
You know, you're going to snipe every time your boss gives you a demand. Are you
Yep.
going to roll your eyes every time he
Yep.
questions, you know,
Yep.
what you're doing? Are you pulling the authority card every time they ask you to do, like, your employee comes to you, you're like, well, I'm your boss. Like,
Yep.
all those things are demasculating.
Yep.
And when we start putting them in perspective, we notice that it's just second nature to women nowadays to
Yeah.
demasculate men. It's just second nature.
Yep.
And I think it's because we got in this whole feminist movement,
Right.
this whole Me Too movement, which I'm not criticizing,
Right.
because I get what it is. But when we're moving the scales to say we're
Yeah.
equal, right? We're forgetting that we're still two different beings.
Beings. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all about equal pay. I
Yeah.
get that, but we're not equal people.
Right.
So we have to understand, like, the nature of our person and how
Right.
those roles work together.
Right. Right.
So I would like for you to talk about, like, the man aspect of what I'm saying.
Right, right. And to kind of segue into it in regards to you saying, the feminist movement and all those women, there's nothing wrong with that. And she even talks into it. I think it's just thought of in a different way. And this is page 114, guys.
I love that you have these pages.
Just to make sure, but remember, just because a man is in your life, or you're a strong independent woman, listen to this passage, and I think it's super powerful, and we forget, right? Karen, one of the characters in the book, she asks, why would we want to give man more power, right? In regards to a lot of things that we've seen, men have abused their power. That is a fact, right? So this is a valid question to have. Why would I want to give a man more power? However, this is amazing. Grandma, her name is Claudia. She said, because the more power your partner has, being the male, the more you both have. Men and women are going to both be powerful or both be weak. That is how it works. So I thought that was amazing how she stated is, if you're together in a relationship, or a boss or whatever, you are actually hurting yourself, not being together in unison. It's not that I'm a man and I'm better than you. It's not that you're a woman and you're better than a man, but actually the more you guys are actually together, the more powerful you are. And there's a complete opposite if you're not. You guys are not at your full potential, going at odds. And I thought that was a amazing point that she made. And then continuing off of kind of what you were saying, Lorena, in regards to like the emasculation and everything like that. Ego and pride are a big thing, and you'll learn in this book. And once again, it's not really focused a lot in regards to the male perspective, but there's examples that are brought up that I think are pretty relative. Men are pretty sensitive, right? So naturally, in the relationship that you'll see in the book, it plays out the same way. So the lady Kimberly, there's a gentleman in the book that we won't disclose. They kind of had a tiff per se, and he started to do things like that, right? So he would, stare at her and gawk at her to make her feel uncomfortable, right? Trying to bring her down a peg. emasculate her because of what he felt from her as well. And that's things that you see all over social media. I know women experience that more. Many of my female friends just going to the grocery store, or even if you're going out with the girls or things of that nature, kind of your experiences, how that affects you guys, how that makes you, feel. And I thought that was I never equated that similar to what you were saying as a form of castration on a woman's standpoint, but it makes total sense in regards to that, guys. And that's something that the book brings to the forefront, of just an awareness of the things that we're doing, because a lot of the things we do, we don't even notice. We don't even equate that with, being like, dang, that wasn't really right. One of my friends that I recommended this book to, she gave me the same reaction. She was like, wow, Diante, I never thought that I was a woman who castrated men. But after reading this, is like, yeah, I literally am. I literally am. And she's like, yeah, I'm going to do better to move past that. So I thought that was pretty important, pretty powerful, pretty, especially for a book that's not for me, eye-opening for my perspective. So I had another point too that I wanted you to speak about on page 313 that was pretty interesting. And I wanted to get kind of the female perspective on this. And it's more so geared towards how to understand men, right? So what the story is talking about is, or Karen, she's talking to Claudia about this, and the excerpt goes, a man's opinions are formed from two sources. The first source is his values. The second source of opinions is trusted information, right? So the book goes on to say, men combine their values with the information they trust to form an opinion. Furthermore, he is not merely defending a thought, he is defending himself. Claudia smiled, understanding what an opinion is made of is the key to understanding how to listen to what a man is saying to you. So with that being said, knowing that whether it's a discussion, an argument, how does you think that relates to a woman, and how would you be able to listen to a man to then communicate with them, knowing those things?
Okay, so, and I want the viewers to know that this is not prep. Like, this is, like, we didn't discuss all this stuff, right? So he's definitely, like, coming with a question. I'm like, ooh, how would I answer that? So, as an attorney, my first thoughts are always argumentative, right? Like, what you're saying is probably garbage, and I'm going to not care. But what I got from the book is that men are single viewed, right? They're one narrow view, where women are not. We're wider. So where we get information from all sources, men tend to take it from one and say, well, this is it. This is what it is. And for the most part, men to believe that everything they're thinking is 100% accurate. So it's not that it is, and I mean, there's probably a percentage of it that's not, and a percentage of it that is, but it's to answer your question, which is how do you take that information and then deliver your message, right? So, I mean, if Diante is telling me, listen, the sky is gray, right? The sky's gray. And I'm like, no, the sky's blue, right? So he's giving me arguments as to why the sky is great, rather than me interrupting him, like, you're crazy, the sky's blue, like, look outside, like, if you look, Google all pictures of skies, right? Like, so that would be me interrupting him, me, like, calling him stupid, like, where are you getting this information? So all that goes towards the arguments of castration. But sorry, that might be my email. But what I think key is just to literally just listen. Okay, just let them talk. And then when they're done, just be like, okay, are you done? Like, you almost want to make sure that they're done. And then don't take your answer as a form of combativeness, right? Like, oh, you're done? Great. Listen, you idiot. The sky. Right? Like, that's not gonna help your situation. You gotta be like, well, why do you believe the sky is blue? I mean, why do you believe the sky is gray? Right. Is it possible that the sky could also be blue? right?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like cloudy days? Are you talking
Yeah.
about just the blue in general?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a matter of asking questions to pull out the information. Where do they get this information?
Yeah.
And then you could say, I respect your opinion. I just don't necessarily agree with
Yep.
it, right?
Yep.
I believe that the
Yeah.
sky is blue because, well, I'm looking at it. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
or
Yeah.
my whole life I was taught that I should color blue,
Yeah.
but I can see where you're coming from. It's a matter of not being constantly combative and
Right.
understanding their point of view.
Right.
Men are open to
Right.
listening and they're
Right.
open to your points, but not when you're attacking them.
Yeah.
Right. So if the conversation went with me name calling, rolling my eyes, interrupting, and being sarcastic, right,
Yeah.
which are go-to things, right?
Yeah.
Just to be perfectly honest, men, and I'm assuming because I'm not a man, but men are gonna. That's it. You're done. You're not
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah.
You see us moving our lips,
Yep.
right?
Wah, wah,
You're,
wah,
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 wah, wah, wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
You're seeing this.
Yep.
You're seeing the
Yeah.
and then you're like, I'm done.
Yep.
And you stepped out of the conversation, and the woman's 30 minutes in
That's
as to
true.
why the sky is blue, and
That's
at
true.
the end of it, you're like, whatever.
Yep.
You're done. You're done. So
Yep.
we're not getting our point across. You're not getting your point
Right.
across. We've gotten to a level where communication is so weak
Yeah.
that the small, minute things can become such big ordeals. Like
Right.
literally the color of the sky. That's nothing, right? But
Right.
could you get into a full-blown argument over that? Absolutely.
Yep.
So if you can't
Yep.
even handle that,
Yeah.
or how to clean a pool, or how to cut the grass,
Yeah.
or what's for dinner,
Yeah.
how are you going to be able to communicate properly on the bigger things of life, like
Right.
finances, children,
Right.
marriage,
Right.
business, right?
Right.
But it takes a lot of practice, because I do believe that we have been women, and when I say we, I say women, have been desensitized to how we treat men. It's
Right.
all about us in a sense. And I am very guilty of it. I'm not, please, for the viewers, do not think that I have this perfect persona. I don't. Like I mentioned, not only am I an attorney, I'm Hispanic, which our blood runs thick and very powerful. So, and we have these, underlining views of independence. But I've learned from this book, and I try to implement it. But in no way am I perfect now either. I still do some of these things. But in the book, I think talks about, if I remember correctly, that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But when it does, stop,
Yeah.
recognize what you're
Yeah.
doing,
Mhm.
apologize for your
Yeah.
actions,
Yeah.
and then move on.
Mhm.
You, as men, will learn to heal from it
Yeah.
when we acknowledge what we're doing
Right.
versus just pretending like it's not
Right.
happening.
Right.
Right?
It's almost like a switch. Like, okay, she understand. What's the word? She understands me. Everybody just wants to be understood at the end of the day. So giveaway time, people. You ready? You ready? So the first person to answer this question in the comment section below correctly will receive this book free. Okay? So the question is, name 2 other books Allison Armstrong has written. Once again, name 2 other books Allison Armstrong has written. All right? Now, stay tuned. We have some more giveaways later in the video. All right? Right. So that's guys. I strongly was there another point you wanted to make in regards to what stuck out to you?
There's another one.
Yeah.
So there's 2 other ones really, but however long you want to make this.
Go ahead.
So the other one would be 2 masculine and feminine energies.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the beauty about this book, I always believe the books fall into your lap on the best time of your life, right?
Yep.
Especially when you're not out there seeking it and it
Yep.
just falls onto you.
Yep.
Well, I read this book right after I came back from Date with Destiny with Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
And in one of his days there, it's a relationship day. And part of it talked about masculine and feminine energies. And I was like,
yep.
So then the book brings this up too. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
So masculine energies and feminine energies doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be masculine is for men and feminine is for women.
Right.
It's just the energy behind a masculine energy and a feminine energy. Because I realize that some relationships, you can have 2 females, 2 male relationships. But what it's saying is that you cannot have both masculine and feminine energy. I mean, you cannot have both masculine energies or two feminine energies in any relationship, because it just doesn't work.
Right.
And an example that I give my friends when I talk to them about this is when you see a switch, right? Like a plug. I wish I had one in front of me so I can show you, but I do have one. So
boom.
Look at this. Who knew it was show and tell?
Let's go.
so here's like the plugs, right?
Yep.
And here is the insert. So as you see, one's bigger and one's smaller.
Yep.
So in Spanish, we call it el macho y la hembra, right? This is how those are things. So when you plug it in, it has to, the bigger one and the smaller one, I don't know if you can tell here, but has to go into the right hole. So when you put it into the right hole, it clicks and it provides power, right?
Yep.
You get the power. But if I try to flip it and I put the man or the macho, right, into the female hole, what happens? It doesn't go in, right? It doesn't matter how hard you try.
Right, yep.
It's not going to go in. So you know what you're not going to get from this?
Power. Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
So what happens if I have two men in the same holes, or two, same thing. If I have two females, same thing, right? So you have to have a balance of masculine and feminine energies. That doesn't mean that the male can have some feminine energy and the female have some masculine energy.
Exactly.
It just means there needs to be equal balance. When you have a female, a woman, right, and her man, both have strong, hard, like I am, hear me roar, you don't give me shit, I'm not gonna listen to anything you tell me. When you have both of them trying to take this dominant role, right, in the relationship, you have two masculine energies. It's not gonna work. It may last a little bit because there's some passion behind it. But in the long run,
nope.
It's not gonna work. And when you have two very sensitive, very like whatever, and there's no one that takes authority in a relationship with the two feet, what we call feminine energy, it's not going to work, right? Because you need the balance. Right. So in the book, it talks about how you need to have a masculine and feminine energy and be okay with understanding your role. If you have the feminine energy in a relationship, doesn't mean you're less of.
Exactly.
Feminine's not negative.
Right.
It's just that's your role. That's the role in the relationship that you take. And there, even in my own relationship, those who know me and my husband know we're both very strong-willed personalities. And some people ask me, well, how does that work? It's like, well, because I know that there's times that I had to take a step back and allow him to be the man that he is. Right. And there is times that he takes a step back and allows me to take lead because he realizes that that's my strength. So he may become more of the feminine energy in that particular moment. But you have to have the balance. And if you do not have that balance and you have two people fighting for that masculine energy in a home, short-lived relationship right there.
Yep. And it even goes on to talk about one segment of the story, operating in an energy that you're not used to. It actually takes your energies down because that's not where you're comfortable at. Yes, you will. Sometimes I like to do roller coasters. Yes, sometimes if you're a natural feminine energy, you're going to have to be a masculine energy. But if you're operating in that masculine, it takes more almost effort, as the book explains, to maintain this as opposed to your regular feminine energy. And amazing part of the book is they had an understanding where she called her husband over and said, look, he actually recognized it, and he's like, you're just not, your energy is off. You need to go to the doctor. And they came to a conclusion that, she was operating too much in the masculine. And she took a step aside, similar to what you were saying in regards to your husband, and allowed him to, that particular teaching, take on the lead. So she wouldn't be so worn out. And guess what? Her levels went right back. She was just as jolly. She wasn't seemingly tired all the time and everything like that. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. So when I read this book, something that clicked into me was, which, by the way, if you are in a committed relationship or married, right, when you read the book, it's okay to ask your husband, hey, if I wanted to say it, like, can you take out the garbage this way?
Yeah. Oh, I love that story.
So like, I did that with Gil. I was
Yeah.
like, well, the book says blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh yeah, like it's
I
amazing. Like
love
he's
it.
like,
Yeah.
that is right on point.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to talk about with the masculine energy is what I believe. Again, this is all my own perception
Mm-hmm.
of the story and my own beliefs. Um, what happens in society today, because there are so many single women,
Right. Mm-hmm.
or better said, not single women, single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was one before I met Gil, so I can talk from my own perspective on this, is we have taken the
Yeah.
masculine role in the home,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It has now become our nature to be the dominant
Right.
provider, the caregiver, everything all in
And
one,
one.
right? Because
Yep.
there's nobody else who's going to help us
Yep.
in the home care for these children, provide for these children, and be everything. So we have taken us, I can do it all. I am a strong personality. I am a masculine role. And because there's only one, it's
Yep.
hard, there's nothing to attach it to. And then what happens is this women meet somebody, they get into a relationship, and they continue to take that role that they were so accustomed to when they were single mothers, and now allow them to take the place into the relationship and give up control of the home,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
So that's where the battles start happening,
Mhm.
because we've already accustomed ourselves to be in that
Right.
masculine energy for it depends how long you were single, a single mom, but for
Right.
the most part, it takes a while, right? You're not going to
Yeah.
jump in from one relationship to the other.
Exactly.
So it's become our nature to do that. And here we have a man who wants to come in and take that. And you're
Yeah.
like, I did it by myself. Sit down. I
Yeah.
got this.
Yeah.
So when we don't really understand that it's not control, it's energy,
Yeah.
right? When you start seeing the difference in that, I think it's when you can sit back and say, okay, he's not trying to control me. He's not
Yeah.
trying to do this.
Yeah.
It's the matter of understanding what our energies are in the home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And he's trying to the one of the hero terms. He's trying to provide. He's trying to
Provide.
provide. Taking things off of your plate. Yes, I'm aware that you have been a single mom and you've raised your kids amazing for however long, 2 years, 5 years, and I'm not going to get in the way of that. But naturally, as you'll see in the book, as the provider, quote unquote, I'm gonna want to come in and do my part to make you feel better, make you feel like you don't have to carry on the load. You know what I mean? So,
And I think you just tapped onto what my last thing is, and a great transition there.
yeah.
It's the roles, not that just the energy, but natural and nurturing roles of what men and females or women are, right? And I found that very interesting, because it's true. If you were to take back the whole entire gender, all the way to the primitive times, what were men roles and what were female roles, right?
Right.
Men are natural providers. That's what they are. That's instinctively who they are. They're natural providers. Women instinctively are natural givers.
Yep.
And nurturers, better said, nurturers, right?
Yep.
So what happens is that women want men to be more nurturing. They want them to nurture the children. They want them to nurture them.
Yeah.
They want all these things that are very feminine-like.
Yeah.
And men just want to go out there and hunt the bear, and
Yeah.
kill the bear, skin the meats, and bring it home, and be like, I'm hungry, I want to eat.
Yeah.
And so that's in essence their goal, because they are single mind, or what's the thing that?
Yeah, we'll say single-minded.
Yeah, single-minded role. Their focus is provide.
Right.
Okay. And that gives them life, right? To be able to give to you.
Yep.
So you got to be willing to receive. And that goes back to where I was talking about in the beginning, when we're like, well, we don't need you. I don't need your money. I got this. And you could be like struggling like on 2 pennies, and you're like, my ego's going to say, I don't need your money. So when the man is out there providing for the home and providing for the children, or maybe in a relationship of like boss and employee, providing for the business to be able to make the money to keep you, as an employee, in those relationships, like they just want to give. So if you're not receiving them openly, and you're not taking them in, and you're expecting them to do other things that is not in their nature, there's going to be confliction there.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Where women are just natural, instinctively nurturers. So we want to fix things. We want to make them feel better. We want to take care of the boo-boos when the kids get hurt. And if we stay within our instinctive natures, right? I think that the relationships can blossom. But unfortunately, I think that somewhere along the line, the last maybe 20 years, women have to, or maybe even more, maybe even more, probably 30, 40 years, women have been told that nurturing is not good, right? Or that we need to be the providers as well. That we don't need to be dependent. We should stand on our own 2 feet. And don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You know, I provide for my family as much as my husband does, but it's not about how much money you make. It's about allowing him to be the provider. Okay. That can mean paying the bills, and yours goes into savings. That can, you know, while you take care of the homework and doing the things with the children while he's working. It doesn't make you a lesser person and him a stronger individual. It makes you a team.
Exactly.
You need to be. You need to be a team that works well together. By still being equal, right? And stronger and more powerful, which is kind of what you were saying. When you give him power, you are also powerful. Because as he's out there providing for you, the more he makes and the more he's providing for the home, the better, more comfortable you're going to live. But when you're constantly fighting within your own walls as to who's going to be the stronger personality, you're actually taking away from yourself rather than giving to yourself.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
That's such a powerful point. And I love how you illustrated that. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm bringing more money into because just like you said, you could be making more money, but just the simple fact of, hey, babe, I got the bills, you know, I'm providing this financial stability in regards to I'm paying the bills, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. I got my stuff in the savings. I'm taking care of the kids. We're all operating in, you know, what makes us, you know, great with one another. You know, I guarantee as you support him going out there work, he's going to feel better. He's going to treat you better. He's going to treat the kids better because you're operating in the energy he's supposed to operate in. And you, as the same as the nurturer, I get to spend more time with my kids, or, you know, I don't have to worry about these things, because it goes on. One of the examples they talk about is men, like, for instance, if a man is hungry, he's going to stop everything and he's going to go eat. A woman will be like, oh, I'm hungry, but oh, I need to go this, and oh, I need to go this, and I need to go that.
So true. Like, you're going to, the same thing for peeing. Like, I think we should look up statistics on kidney infections for women. Like, we will do everything, laundry, change, bath, fold, before we go take care of ourselves. Like, no, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat.
And just things like that is just so amazing about the book. And guys, we could go on for hours about this amazing book. But as we wrap it up, Lorena, I wanted you to kind of give your overall rating of the book and what you think about it.
Well, I don't know. We're doing like 1 to 100, 1 to 10, because whatever it is, it's going to be
the top. the top rating.
Top rating, definitely is one of my top 5. I would say. And when I know I said 52 books in the beginning. I never actually hit that goal. Very overwhelming goal. But since I set that goal, I must have read probably well into 100 books since I set that book goal, which was about 4 years ago. So that's still a lot of books that I've consumed. And all of them in the same concept of self-growth and, you know, learning and development. I wasn't reading Harry Potter, okay? Like, these are books for development. And this is one of my top, for sure, hands down. There's a lot of other great ones, but as far as a relationship, like, I don't know another good one. Like, I don't. And you may not want to hear, and I think that's the powerful thing about
that's a good thing. You
don't want to hear what she has to say. You don't want to admit that you are that person, right? But when you are honest with yourself, so I think is, you know, a friend of mine once told me, and I'll give a shout out to Will Butler. One time in our little mastermind asked us, well, do you have integrity with yourself, right? And that stuck to me, because I'm like, am I having integrity with myself? If I can't be honest with myself, then I can't be expecting to be honest with everybody around me, right? And then that stands as to how much integrity do I have within myself. And that's where I think this book comes into place, because it allows you to really hold yourself accountable. Don't lie to yourself. If you're masculine and castrating a man, if you're Lorena Bobbying these guys, perfect word for my name, right? If you're doing that, be honest about it. You cannot fix the problem if you don't admit that you are part of the problem. Right?
Exactly.
And in our relationships, and I've said this before, in our relationships that don't work, it's not one person's fault. Okay? It's both of you. Someone did something, and until you take responsibility for your portion in that relationship or what did not work, you're never going to be able to have a successful relationship in the future, because that problem is going to continue to fold into the next. Exactly. So if you can acknowledge some of these things that you're doing now and fix them in the relationship that you have, you may not need another one.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Because you're with that person and you love that person for a reason. So start treating them like that. I mean, I know at the end, we talked about like these men are kings, right? You can talk about that briefly, but I mentioned this to a friend of mine, and by no means am I saying that women who are single are not queens, because I know right now, so please don't misjudge what I'm saying, but it's become a socially okay thing to now boost women's egos up by saying, hey, you're a queen, you slaying it, queen, you know what I'm saying? And that's a beautiful thing, because we should be able to carry those titles. But I've said this and I've talked to my husband about it, and it's probably going to be like not popular with what I'm about to say. But if you were to take the term queen, right, to all the way back to where like the monarchy started, queens were not queens until they had a king. They needed to, and if you were taking the throne from your father and you were the female, right, what would happen? They would marry you off to like another kingdom that they wanted to do business with. When you married,
that's when you
then it's when you took the role of the queen. Right? And then the king, who could have been like whatever, he's the one that took control and you did everything in the background. Right? But you were still a queen. That title wasn't taken away from you. So I mean, I know that's what I'm saying is not from popular experiences. People be like, I'm a queen and I'm single. Yes, you are. You're a queen all day in your own world. You're a queen of your home. You know. But when you have a relationship, understand that title comes with a lot of responsibility. Okay. And that means that you cannot take the throne and you cannot take, the crown from your king just to make you a queen, because the only reason you got that was because he had his too. So empower each other to continue to to elevate your kingdom together. That's in essence how I would describe that.
Perfect. And to expound, we'll wrap it up right after this, because I'm gonna go all the way into it. 236, guys. I got the pages.
Yes, he does. I love
it. So as we're talking about kings and queens, and this is what Lorena is referring to. Claudia is talking to the women in the book, and she states there's three kind of personas of men, right? So she said, guys are what Claudia would call knights. And listen to the words that I'm using right now. She said, guys are what Claudia would call knights and princes. Men are kings, the fully developed version. The stature, the weight, as she was talking about, it comes a lot with being a king, a queen, a lot comes with that, right? The stature of weight of being that a king acquires is probably what has women refer to them as real men and feel somewhat intimidated by them. They are intimidating. This is what Kimberly is saying. They are intimidating. And I feel the truth, it's because I don't think I can manipulate them the way I'm used to manipulating younger men, right? So as we were talking about, being, integrity within yourselves, is the reason why you actually don't have a quote unquote king is because you understand what comes with the king, right? And she speaks on it right here as the passage continues. First, fully developed men, or kings as they're called, in the stages of development won't tolerate being emasculated as much as younger men, right? And then finally, she talks about, while the youngest men, knights, they focus on adventure and princes focus on building, being a provider is there in the background. But as a king, the focus, like we've been talking about, is providing. He's a provider on steroids to the max. To him, providing is the point, which means that as a woman, you have to be great at receiving, right? So what Lorena was just even kind of talking about was this passage in the book, guys. It's not what she said, and I hate that we have to use disclaimers and stuff.
Yes, I do too, because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. Right?
But it's
I'm
just
gonna get like 15 unfriends.
But But it just goes to show you guys, you really have to look within yourself. And are you actually saying that you want a king, or you just want a prince or a knight that you can manipulate and kind of say you're the queen or whatnot? Because as she was very transparent in the book, it's intimidating to be around a presence like that, because as it says, they're not tolerating a lot of things that you may still be comfortable partaking in. Right. So what an amazing book.
Yes.
That's my review. That's my review of the book. It's literally my top 5, and I've actually had to tone it down because I'm a raving fan of it. So literally, and I strongly recommend it to literally every single woman. Every single woman should read this book. And once again, it's not in regards to relationships, guys, like personal relationships. It's all over in the workplace, your friends with your male counterparts, right? Your brothers, your sisters. One of the people in the book is a teacher, and she's actually using the teachings from the book for her little kids that are little young boys. So it's so expansive, guys, to what the Queen Code. It is so amazing. I'm a raving fan of it. You should get it. We can go on for hours and hours about it, but the principle is, if you guys are truly looking to continue to improve yourself, continue to improve your relationships with men, Queen's Code is definitely a must-have. And once again, as I stated before, the first person to comment in the comment section below with the answer from our trivia question will get this book sent to you for free. Okay, so Lorena, thank you so much for coming on, and once again, changing my life by having a brief conversation about a book that you had oh my goodness. I'm so happy you were willing to come on. We wanted to do this in person, guys, but things happen, as you guys are aware of what's going on, but we made this thing happen. So Lorena, thank you so much for this book.
Welcome. And listen, I will give a book too. So so this way 2 more people can read it. Let's see. I would say whoever can write a comment about something that they took from our conversation that was impactful, and it's not within the first 10 minutes, because I want to make sure you listen to the whole thing. I will pick you randomly and send a book to you as well.
Boom. So we got 2 giveaways in one, people. Make sure you tune in. All our information will be in the comment section below as well. Lorena is actually putting herself out of business by recommending this book, but it is.
I'm okay with
it's
that.
great.
I'm
it's
okay
fine. It's fine. So you guys reach out to her if you need her. She's amazing, and my information is in the comment section below. Like, comment, and subscribe, people. Peace.